Welcome back to Rock Your Comeback podcast. I'm your host, Nichole Eaton, and it has been 6 months. I have not posted a podcast since May or the end of May. I think I posted one in June, but I'm back. Because guys, I couldn't stay away too long. That's just how I am. I wanted to talk about it though. One of my clients said to me the other day, she said, Nichole, you are like my permission slip to do things differently. You are my permission slip to rest or to take a break or to try things my own way. And I was thinking about that entirely of one of the reasons that I stepped away from the podcast is because my daughter will be a senior next year. And I had this realization that I've got like 2 summers maybe left with her. And time felt really pressing and precious, and I already had a bunch of other things on my day-to-day. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to reprioritize things and I am going to give this room to breathe. And it was so funny because I had found out shortly after I got invited to speak at a podcasting event. And the entire time I'm standing there, I'm like, I feel like a fraud. I feel like a fraud. Like I just put my podcast on a hiatus and I'm telling you how important podcasting is. And the reality is that it is important, but is it more important than my family? No. Is it more important than my relationship with my children? Is it more important than how quick time is passing and how I can't, be split into 50 different directions all the time, every time? And the reality was no, it wasn't more important. So now that I have created time in my world again for this, I'm happy to be back and I'm happy to share with you all of the things that Rock Your Comeback was really about, was about energy and intuition and mindset and manifesting and creating your own world and creating your own power in your life to feel like you have the power to choose, to feel like you have the power to become anything you decide to become. And that was the intention, right? That was the intention of Rock Your Comeback, was that we give you the power and the tools to do things differently in your life. So as much as it was a little weird taking time off and a little hard when people would ask me why my podcast wasn't on, the reality is sometimes the timing's not right. And sometimes the timing is correct to jump back in. So this is your permission slip to take a break and to stop forcing the things that aren't working in your life. There are things that we hammer on and there are things that are draining us and we feel like we have to continue to do them. And the reality is do you actually have to continue to do that? Is it something that you could put on hiatus? Is it something that you could be doing a different way? I think that the problem with doing things, and I, can speak on business specifically, the problem with doing things is that we're told to do 90 million fucking things. If you're a business owner, then you know that you should post 95 times a day and you should go to all these networking things. And basically you should have no life of your own and you should really pour all of your energy into your business and definitely not into your life and definitely not into your kids. And you're definitely not allowed to take a break. And we have all these conceptions and perceptions of this hustle culture that's been created for us. And that's not just true with business, that's also true with being a parent, being a mom, and having that role as well, is that you need to have this way of doing things. And I'm here to disrupt that for you. I'm here to ask you the hard questions so that you can ask yourself, is there a better way than the way I've been doing things? That's the whole point of the comeback process. Is there a better way than what I've been doing, than what's been normalized in my world? And how do I start doing things differently? And so for me, it came with permission. I had to give myself permission to take a break, because part of me felt like a failure for taking a break, for having to take a break, because real business owners would just charge through and I've got a good thing going. And I found out at this podcasting conference, because somebody Googled me that I was on a panel with, and she said, I think it's amazing that you're top 5% globally ranked podcast. And I'm like, I beg your finest pardon. What do you mean? I'm like, my listeners are, I think, average at best. Like, I can't imagine being, and I looked and she showed me on 3 different websites where Rock Your Comeback was top 5% globally ranked podcast in the self-help sector. And I just remember feeling like is this a sign from the universe that I shouldn't be taking a break right now? Because I think that when we allow things to just be, we get these conflicting signs, and then it's like, well, did I do it right? Was it wrong? And sometimes it just doesn't have a fucking meaning. I'm big on meaning, but sometimes things don't mean anything, until we make them mean something. So one step is obviously giving yourself permission to take a break, giving yourself permission to stop the way you've been doing things. If something's burning you out, and the only way you're going to know is if you take 5 minutes to shut everything off and reconnect with yourself. Last weekend was our 48-hour vibe upgrade retreat, which was phenomenal. And I just kept saying to the women, like, when do people, humans, in any regard, sit down and actually just look at what the fuck they're thinking and look at what they're doing and look at how things are going for them? You don't have time. And when you do have time, you're doing other things like catching up on laundry, and I don't know what you're doing in your spare time, but I know for me, I am literally playing catch up half of my life because I'm a parent and I run 2 to 3 businesses depending on the day. And I think it's just time that you create space in your life to actually look at things, look at how things are going, and ask yourself, is it going in a way that I want, or do I need to make a change? And if the answer is that you do need to make a change, then you have to be willing to take a step back. You have to be willing to step back and look at it objectively. In the Comeback Club today, I go live every Monday to do a little pep talk, but in the Comeback Club today, I was like, there is something to be said about being wrapped up in emotion, right? When we are wrapped up in an emotion, when we are wrapped up in anger, and I'm going to give you the same example. I rented a car for the 48 vibe-hour upgrade retreat, and this car was like 160 for 4 days, whatever, super cheap, perfect situation. And the hurricane came in. And so my plans changed because I was going to stay in Orlando and I was going to go to St. Augustine with some friends for the weekend, or for the rest of the week. And my plans changed. So I called the rental company and I was like, hey, I need to actually go to Jacksonville. Can I drop this off in Jacksonville because of the hurricane? Like, I just don't want to stay here and I have to get there somehow. And they're like, absolutely, because of the hurricane, there's no charge, no extra anything. So I get to drop my car off and I'm heading towards Hilton Head, which is where I redirected all my plans to. I'm heading towards Hilton Head, and I see a charge come through on my card for $1,500 from this car rental company. And I'm like, I fucking what? What do you mean $1,500? It was supposed to be 160. And so I called and the lady's like, yeah, we can't help you. Anything past the rental process, you need to fill out a form and they'll be back to you between 3 to 5 business days. Now, my level of ADD makes it so that following up on things like health insurance and those kind of things, it's really stressful for me because I don't remember that it's there. And I was heading on vacation, so I don't want to stay on top of this. So I'm seething. I'm seeing red. I'm pissed. I called 6 different people and they all told me the same thing. So I finally submit the form and I'm heading to Hilton Head, and I was like, you know what? This isn't getting resolved today. It's not getting resolved today. And I can be pissed about it, and I could call everybody and tell everybody how unfair it is that they just charged my card $1,500. And I can explain how, like, 10 years ago, that would have bankrupted me. That would have wrecked me to have $1,500 taken out of my account without the expectation that it was. But the reality was, at this point in my life, sucks, but it's fine. And at this point in my life, I can walk into a different situation and I can try something new, and I can put my energy in the present moment. And the present moment was I got to be on the beach with my girls and some good friends. There's power in redirecting our energy instead of staying in the energy of the problem, that we can shift to the energy of the present, which is the energy of the solution. And I'll tell you what, that I didn't do anything else with this car. I got a refund almost immediately. And what I didn't think I was going to get a refund for is the Airbnb of the original property in St. Augustine that ended up being evacuated. But unless you have insurance, which I never buy insurance on that stuff, they said there was nothing they could do. And they also gave me that refund back without doing much. Sitting on the beach, seeing the Northern Lights. The Northern Lights were in Hilton Head. Bright Northern Lights. I've been to Iceland twice, and these Northern Lights were in Hilton Head and they were phenomenal. But my point is that sometimes we have to reassess how we're doing things. And sometimes in the reassessment, we have to be willing to become the observer of our experience, dive into the present moment and see what there is for us. Because when we can be in the present moment, when we can take time to just sit with ourselves, That is where a lot of things get resolved. It isn't in the overthinking. Things aren't getting resolved in the overthinking. Things are not getting resolved deep in the anger. There's nothing that's getting resolved in the actual emotion. It's when we can pull ourselves out and ask ourselves the question of, okay, well, what can I do in this moment? Well, I submitted the form. I called the Airbnb. There's nothing else I can do action-wise in this moment. If there's nothing else I can do action-wise in this moment, then I have to redirect my energy. And so I turned off my phone and I sat on the beach all fucking day. I literally had a cup of coffee on the beach and I had a cocktail on the beach to watch the sunset. I watched the sunrise and the sunset in the same damn spot. And it was one of the most peaceful days. And it's not always that I get a peaceful day, but I've realized that you can also create peace even on days that aren't peaceful. And you can add joy to the days that aren't joyful. And it all comes with being really intentional. And we can't be intentional if we are burnt out, and we can't be intentional if we are running ourselves ragged, doing things that aren't adding up to much anyway. So this podcast is my welcome back podcast. And in case you needed to hear it too, this is your permission to do things differently. And this is your permission to take a break from whatever it is you need a break from, because it's your time is so precious and you get to look at your priorities in your life. For me, there is a lot that I will intend on there's a lot that I intend on achieving in my life. Let me be clear. There's a lot, and there's a lot I have already achieved in my life. But the real reward for me is like finding that peace. And this year has been a big lesson in finding that peace. And now that I've found it, I don't want to part with it. But now that I've found it, I can use it as a foundation and a base for everything else I do, like this podcast. So instead of scurrying and trying to throw an episode together, not even really loving it or being proud of it, but putting it out because I promise everybody weekly, like things will look different for me from here on out. And I hope they get to look different for you too, and that you give yourself permission for them to look different. And I think that's the key, is giving yourself permission for things to look different for you. Giving yourself permission to reassess what the fuck isn't working in your life. Because you don't really have time. Like, you don't have time. We're running out of time. And if you look at it that way, then there's an urgency to change, because we can stay in the same situations for repeat for years and allow it to eat at us and allow it to ruin us and allow it to take everything out of us. But at the end of the day, you're the one who gets to make the decision to not do that anymore. But if you make no decision, there's no change. And so this requires prioritizing and it requires reflection. And if you have neither, then you're going to do the same thing you were doing 20 years ago. And I don't know if that's leading you to where you want to go. And that's another question that you have to ask in the moment. Is it leading me to where I want to go? And if the answer is no, you got to go. You have to do something differently. You have to protect your life and your future and fight for your future at all costs. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. Making a decision isn't easy. And sureness isn't easy. Or if we're not sure about something, we just have to be willing to trust ourselves that we can handle the next steps. I mean, I posted about that today on Instagram, is there's no such thing as ready. Like, ready is a trap and an illusion. We won't ever be sure. We will always have two decisions, and we have to trust ourselves to be able to handle whatever outcome comes that way. No matter the decision we make, the trust in the decision comes in being able to say, okay, you know what? Even if this goes awry and it wasn't the right choice and it ends up being something that didn't work out, I trust myself enough to figure it out, and I trust myself enough to be able to pull myself up from it and make a new choice at a different later date. And that's real power, is real trust, when you can ask yourself those questions. And when you can be willing to know that there's no right answer. You know, even in intuition, a lot of people are like, oh, well, what do I do next? And the answer is always the same for me when I share those things with people. Like, there's no right. And if I can get that through to anybody, there's no right choice. There's just the choice that's in your free will right now. And you're either usually acting from a choice of hope or a choice of fear. So if you're acting out of fear, you're staying the same, and you're doing something you don't want to do, and that's not really working, but it's safer than the unknown. And the unknown discomfort is going to be a lot briefer than the known discomfort that you're going to stay in. So this is your beginning of trusting yourself to make the choices not because they're the right ones, but because they're the real one at the moment in time, and because you trust yourself to figure it out after. And this is me trusting myself to figure it out after. There's part of me that's posting this thinking, I don't even know if this will pop up on anybody's feeds because it's been so long, but it's what I feel called to do. And so I'm going to do it. And I hope it gives you permission to do the things that you need to do today. And if you have been watching my Instagram or on my Facebook page, you will know that I've actually started another business. I sold a business earlier this month, and I started another business called Visionary Blueprint. So Rock Your Comeback will still be here with all the tips and tricks to step back into your power, to feel more aligned with your mindset, to develop your intuition, and to create a life you love through retreats, through one-on-ones, and through the Comeback Club. And Visionary Blueprint is a company I started with my friend Casey and my friend Chelsea. And we will be helping women entrepreneurs because after working with a bunch of men who were fantastic and incredible, and I love them all, I've realized that the demands on women and the demands on men are so different. And the way we have to do business is so different that I want to help women grow and expand within their constrictions of the roles that are required of you to be a mom. So we actually are doing live podcasts in our Facebook group. So if you are interested, message me or reach out to me on nicholeeaton.xo. I will put a link to the Facebook group in the bio of this so that you can connect if you are a female entrepreneur. But we are pulling in a live podcast so people can ask questions. So if you have something going on in your business that you need help with, it is going to be a perfect time to get those questions answered. And we would love to help you grow and expand. So we are looking forward to that. But I love you guys. Thank you for your understanding and patience. I hope this podcast finds you so well. And yeah, catch you later.